Welcome, everyone, to our deep dive into the science of sleep. We all struggle with it at some point, right? Whether it's falling asleep or staying asleep, or even just waking up and feeling refreshed. But this isn't just your typical sleep advice episode. We're going a bit deeper here. We've got research papers, some book excerpts, even a little snippet from another podcast, all ready to be dissected. So get ready to uncover some, well, hopefully some real gold nuggets about why sleep matters and how we can, how to actually make it work for us.
It's true. Sleep is so fundamental to our well-being, but it's often overlooked. And the research really highlights just how crucial it is for every aspect of our lives. I mean, everything from our mood, our energy levels, even our immune system and brain function.
Absolutely. One of the things that really struck me when I was going through all these sources was that 1 in 3 adults are sleep deprived. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But, even more interesting is why. Why is this happening?
Well, it seems like we're living in this perfect storm of sleep disruptors. We're constantly bombarded with information. We're glued to our screens late into the night. And stress levels are, well, they're through the roof. It's like we've almost forgotten how to properly rest.
It's like we're fighting our own biology because, like, we're supposed to sleep, right? That's not really optional.
Right.
But then we see the consequences when we don't. And some of the sources mention some serious health risks like weight gain, heart disease, even a possible link to Alzheimer's.
Yeah, those are certainly some compelling reasons to take sleep seriously. And yet, for so many of us, it's still this afterthought. We push ourselves to the limit, sacrificing sleep in the name of productivity or entertainment without really realizing the long-term costs.
Yeah, I've totally been there. Always trying to squeeze in just one more thing. So how do we change this? How do we move from like just knowing about the problem to actually doing something about it?
Well, I think one of the first steps is understanding how sleep actually works. It's like having this roadmap to better sleep. Once you understand, how your body and brain are actually designed to function, you can start making changes that actually align with those natural rhythms.
Okay, so let's talk about the science. I've heard of things like sleep cycles and circadian rhythms, but to be honest, it all gets a little jumbled in my head. Can you break it down for us?
Of course, of course. Let's start with those 90-minute sleep cycles. Essentially, throughout the night, we cycle through these different stages of sleep: light sleep, deep sleep, and REM sleep, which is where we dream. Each of these cycles takes roughly 90 minutes.
So it's not just about how many hours I'm in bed, it's about completing those cycles.
Exactly, exactly. And ideally, we want to be going through several of these cycles per night. But then there's this other piece to the puzzle, your circadian rhythm, which is essentially your internal body clock, this intricate system that regulates your sleep-wake cycle, and it's highly influenced by light exposure, especially in the morning.
I've heard that morning sunlight is key, but I actually sleep so much better when I've gotten evening sun. Does that mess up my sleep cycle?
That's a good question, and it really highlights how individual, our sleep needs can be. While morning light is generally considered ideal for regulating your circadian rhythm, if you find the evening sun works better for you, it might be worth experimenting. See what feels best for your body. The key takeaway here is consistency, whether it's morning or evening light. Regular exposure helps keep your internal clock in sync.
Got it, got it. Okay, so how about things like melatonin and cortisol? I know those hormones play a role in sleep, but I could definitely use a quick refresher.
Right, right. Those are key players for sure. So melatonin, often called the sleep hormone, rises at night, signaling to your body that it's time to, start winding down. Cortisol, on the other hand, is your stress hormone, and ideally its levels should be dropping as you prepare for sleep.
Okay, that makes sense. But for a lot of people, stress doesn't just magically disappear at bedtime. In fact, sometimes I feel even more wired at night when I'm trying to shut my brain off.
You've hit on a very real problem.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a major reason why so many people struggle with sleep. We live in a world that's constantly demanding our attention, making it really difficult to truly unwind.
Okay, so we've got the science basics down. Sleep cycles, circadian rhythms, hormones. It sounds like we really need to work with our biology and not against it.
Yes.
And that's where the practical tips come in, right?
Absolutely.
All right, so let's dive into some of those science-backed strategies that can make a real difference in our sleep quality. What's the first tip on our list?
Well, it might sound simple, but one of the most important things you can do is stick to a consistent sleep schedule. And that means going to bed and waking up around the same time each day, even on weekends.
See, I always thought that sleeping in on weekends was like a way to catch up on sleep, but are you saying that's actually counterproductive?
It can be. Think of it this way, your internal clock. It's like a finely tuned instrument. When you disrupt your sleep schedule, even if it's just on the weekends, you're essentially throwing off its rhythm. It's like trying to play a beautiful melody on a piano that's out of tune.
So I'm essentially training my body to expect sleep at a certain time, just like, training for a marathon. Consistency is key.
Precisely. And while it might take some time to adjust, especially if you're used to these irregular sleep patterns, your body will thank you for it in the long run.
Okay, so consistent sleep schedule, check. What's next?
The next one is all about creating a sleep-friendly environment. We're talking cool, dark, and quiet. Think of it as transforming your bedroom into a sleep sanctuary.
I like that, sleep sanctuary. I've heard that before, but honestly, my bedroom is anything but a sanctuary. It's more like a dumping ground for clothes and books and just like random clutter. Does that really matter? I mean, as long as my bed is comfortable, can't I just like block out the mess?
It's not about being a minimalist or having this perfectly styled bedroom. It's more about creating a space that feels conducive to relaxation and sleep. Think about it this way. If you're surrounded by clutter and chaos, your mind is likely to reflect that same energy, right?
Hmm. Okay, so I'm basically setting the stage for a more restful sleep experience, even before I get into bed.
Exactly, exactly. And remember, we're aiming to minimize distractions here. So those blackout curtains we mentioned earlier, they're key for blocking out any unwanted light.
I have to confess, I've always resisted blackout curtains. I like waking up to natural light, but maybe I could try them out.
It's worth experimenting. And if you're really sensitive to light, even just a small amount can disrupt your sleep, especially in those early morning hours. And then a white noise machine can also be incredibly helpful for masking disruptive sounds. You mentioned you live in the city, so I imagine there's a fair amount of ambient noise.
Oh yeah, the city never sleeps. So a white noise machine could be my new best friend. And earplugs are always a good option too, right? I've just never been able to get used to them. They always feel weird.
I understand earplugs aren't for everyone, but if you find that noise is a major sleep disruptor for you, it might be worth trying out, different types until you find a pair that feels comfortable. And remember, temperature plays a role too. A slightly cooler room, somewhere around 65 degrees Fahrenheit, is ideal for sleep.
Okay, so cool, dark, quiet, maybe a little bit of decluttering. I can definitely work on that. What's next?
This one might be a tough one for some, but it's crucial. Limiting screen time before bed. We touched on this earlier when we were discussing blue light, but I want to really emphasize just how important it is to create a digital curfew for yourself.
I know, I know. It's the digital age dilemma, right? We're constantly connected, and it's so tempting to just scroll through our phones or watch just one more episode before bed. But I'm ready to hear the hard truth. How exactly does that blue light mess with our sleep?
Well, as we mentioned before, blue light from our devices suppresses melatonin production. So it's basically tricking our brains into thinking it's still daytime, even when we're trying to wind down for sleep.
So I'm basically sending mixed signals to my body. I'm telling it it's time to sleep, but then bombarding it with light that says, wake up.
Exactly. And the effects actually go beyond melatonin suppression. Studies have shown that using electronic devices before bed can delay our sleep onset, reduce the amount of REM sleep we get, even make us feel groggier the next morning.
Okay, you've convinced me. I need to break up with my phone before bed. But what if I just can't resist the urge to scroll? Are there any strategies for that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. First, try setting a digital curfew for yourself, an hour or two before bed. Put away your phone, tablet, laptop, and if you must use them, try those blue light blocking glasses we mentioned earlier. Most devices also have this night mode feature now that can help reduce the amount of blue light exposure.
I've seen that, the night mode. I never really used it. I guess I didn't think it made that much of a difference.
It's definitely worth trying. Even if it's just a small reduction in blue light exposure, it can still help signal to your brain that it's time to wind down. Another strategy is to create a charging station for your devices and keep it outside of the bedroom.
Oh, so I'm literally removing the temptation. Out of sight, out of mind.
Exactly. And remember, the goal is not to demonize technology. It's about finding a healthy balance and creating those boundaries that support your sleep.
Okay, so we're putting away the devices, creating a calming environment, sticking to a schedule, and now we're adding in a relaxing bedtime routine. What exactly does that look like? I'm picturing something very spa-like, with candles and soft music.
It can be as simple or as elaborate as you like. The key here is to find activities that help you unwind and signal to your body that it's time to transition from wakefulness to sleep.
Okay, so I can ditch the cucumber eye mask and the whale sounds.
Unless those are things you genuinely enjoy and find relaxing. Remember, it's about personalization. Some people find that reading a book helps them unwind, while others prefer taking a warm bath or listening to calming music.
I love the idea of a warm bath before bed. I never seem to have time for it.
Even a few minutes of quiet time can make a difference. The point is to create a ritual that helps you de-stress and prepare for sleep. Maybe it's as simple as dimming the lights, lighting a scented candle, or practicing some deep breathing exercises.
I've always struggled with meditation, but I've heard deep breathing can be really helpful. Do you have any tips for like a deep breathing newbie?
Oh, there are tons of great resources online. And even some simple techniques you can try on your own. There's one called box breathing. You inhale for a count of 4, hold your breath for 4, exhale for 4, and hold again for 4. It's a really great way to calm your nervous system, shift into a more relaxed state.
Okay, I'm going to try that tonight. Box breathing, here I come. So we're putting away the devices, creating a calming environment, sticking to a schedule, adding in a relaxing bedtime routine. What's the final piece of the puzzle?
The last tip focuses on diet and caffeine intake. What we eat and drink, and when we consume those things, can have a significant impact on our sleep quality.
Ugh. Uh, this one might be tough. I'm a bit of a night owl, and I'm definitely guilty of the late night snacking. But why is eating before bed such a bad thing?
It's not necessarily about avoiding food altogether before bed. It's more about being mindful of what and when you eat. Heavy meals close to bedtime can disrupt sleep because your body is working hard to digest all that food, which can interfere with your ability to fall asleep and stay asleep. And certain foods can actually trigger wakefulness.
So the midnight pizza run might not be the best idea. What about caffeine? I know I should limit it, but I can't resist that afternoon pick-me-up.
I hear you. Caffeine can definitely interfere with sleep, especially if you're consuming it close to bedtime. It's a stimulant. It can stay in your system for several hours. If you're struggling with sleep, it's worth experimenting with reducing your caffeine intake or cutting it off earlier in the day.
Okay, no more late night pizza or afternoon coffee for me. So we've covered a lot of ground here. Consistent sleep schedules, sleep-friendly environment, screen time limits, bedtime routine, and mindful eating. It sounds like all very practical, actionable steps.
Exactly. And remember, it's about progress, not perfection. Don't feel like you need to overhaul your entire life overnight. Start with 1 or 2 tips that resonate with you and gradually incorporate the others as you feel ready.
I love that our sources also included a real-life example to show how these tips can be put into action. They told the story of Sarah, a busy professional who overcame insomnia using these very strategies.
Oh, yes. Sarah's story is really inspiring. It demonstrates that these aren't just, abstract concepts, but practical steps that can lead to real results.
It sounds like she really committed to making those changes, and her experience highlights the transformative power of those small adjustments. I'm curious, did Sarah use any specific tools or resources that helped her on her sleep journey? Because I know our sources mentioned some helpful apps and books.
That's a great question, and it leads us perfectly into our next segment where we'll explore some of those resources and tools that can help you take your sleep to the next level.
So tools and resources, what are your favorites?
Well, in Sarah's case, she actually found a lot of success with sleep tracking apps. She started using Sleep Cycle to monitor her sleep patterns and really identify any trends or disruptions.
I've heard of Sleep Cycle. What exactly does it track?
It basically uses your phone's microphone to detect sounds and movement while you sleep. And then it can estimate the different stages of sleep that you're going through: light sleep, deep sleep, REM sleep. And it provides you with this detailed sleep report each morning.
So it's like having a sleep lab in your pocket. That's kind of cool. I wonder if it can tell if I'm like a secret sleepwalker.
Well, maybe not sleepwalking specifically, but it can detect restlessness and movement. So you might get some clues if you're tossing and turning more than usual.
Okay, I'm definitely intrigued. Our sources also mentioned apps like Calm and Headspace. Those are more for meditation, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They offer these guided meditations that are specifically designed for sleep, and they can be really helpful for calming your mind, easing you into that more relaxed state before bed.
I've actually used Headspace, but more for like general meditation and stress relief. I haven't really explored the sleep content.
I think you would find it quite helpful. They have a variety of sleep medications, from these soothing nature sounds to guided visualizations, even bedtime stories. There's something for everyone.
Nice, nice. And then they also suggested checking out books like Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker and The Sleep Solution by W. Chris Winter. I have to admit, I'm more of a podcast person than a bookworm these days. But maybe I could make an exception for these.
I highly recommend both of them. Why We Sleep it's like this deep dive into the science and the importance of sleep. And it's fascinating, and it really emphasizes just how crucial sleep is for our overall well-being. It's a good one.
Oh, it's like the book version of this deep dive? I'm in. What about the sleek solution?
That one's a bit more practical, I think.
Yeah.
It offers lots of actionable tips and strategies for improving sleep, tailored to different sleep challenges. So it's like having a sleep coach, but in book form.
All right, so we've got sleep tracking apps, meditation apps, books galore. Anything else we should be aware of?
You know, one of the simplest yet most powerful resources is actually your own breath. Even just incorporating a few minutes of deep breathing exercises into your daily routine can make a huge difference.
Yeah, we talked about box breathing earlier. That's the one where you inhale for a count of 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold again for 4, right?
Exactly, exactly. It's a great technique for calming your nervous system, and the best part is you can do it anytime, anywhere.
So I can do it while I'm stuck in traffic, waiting in line at the grocery store, or even lying in bed trying to fall asleep.
Precisely. It's like a portable stress reliever and sleep enhancer.
All right, I'm going to add that to my toolkit, along with a sleep tracking app, maybe some guided meditations, and a sleep-related book or two. I'm feeling pretty equipped to tackle these sleep challenges.
I think you're well on your way to better sleep. And remember, it's a journey, not a destination. There will be ups and downs. The key is to just keep learning, experimenting, and finding what works best for you.
After this deep dive, I'm realizing that sleep is so much more than just something we do at night. It's really the foundation of our physical, mental, and emotional health.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. It's an investment in our overall well-being, one that pays dividends in every aspect of our lives.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground here today, from the science of sleep to some really practical tips to all these helpful resources. Hopefully, our listeners are feeling inspired and empowered to prioritize their sleep.
Yeah, I hope so too. Remember, sleep is not a luxury, it's a necessity. And by understanding how it works and making, even small sustainable changes, we can all unlock the power of truly restful sleep.
And with that, we'll leave you to ponder all this newfound knowledge. Put those tips into practice. Sweet dreams, everyone.